week on Marketplace Middle East, unlimited potential. I traveled to the oil fields of Iraq, meet the early movers in a market some say is still in its infancy, even 10 years after the war. And beyond oil, a growing economy has given life to the food and beverage industry. We look at how local investors are grabbing a piece of the pie. Welcome to this edition of CNN Marketplace Middle East. Iraq has suffered for years from war and economic stagnation. Investors are hoping that the security situation will stabilize. This is an economy of roughly 33 million people. The IMF projects it will expand by 9% this year and roughly 8.5% in 2014. But that's coming, of course, from a very low base. Iraq says it has the world's fourth largest oil reserves, and the International Energy Agency predicts production will double by the end of this decade. That would generate $200 billion of revenue a year. But violence and a lack of security can jeopardize all of that. As the country continues to face unrest, Iraqi officials are hoping that an abundance of oil will keep investors flowing in for years to come. The energy sector itself has been transformed over the last 10 years, especially in the north, where investment laws are much more transparent. I traveled to the region to spot the early movers and see why the super majors are eager to plant their flags there as well. The rolling hills of northern Iraq helped the Kurdish region earn the nickname as the Switzerland of the Middle East. But beneath the greenery lies an abundance of black gold.
I think Iraq is the last untapped resource of low-cost oil and gas left in the world. Everything else is now Arctic or deep offshore.
The potential bounty brought the Jafar family, Arab Iraqis originally from Baghdad, back into the country for business for the first time in 4 decades.
Here in Iraq, we've only drilled a couple of thousand wells compared to about 40,000 in Saudi and over 1 million just in the state of Texas.
The natural gas, pumped through a 190-kilometer pipeline, supplies power for the region's 2 main cities, Sulaymaniyah and Erbil. It may be boom time here in Iraq and energy control panels like this one here in the Kurdish region, but it's also a game of catch-up after nearly a quarter-century of conflict. Todd Kozel is a second-generation oilman from the United States. He started drilling at the Shaykhon field 3 years ago. It is 10 times bigger than he had ever hoped for.
Shaykhon is the largest discovery in Kurdistan. We got very lucky with our exploration. It is a field that's estimated to have 13 to 15 billion barrels of oil in place. It is a massive discovery.
Kozel, like many others, believes the Kurdish region alone could have 40 billion barrels, meaning a similar size to oil-rich Libya. Gulf Keystone and Crescent Petroleum were the early movers, but the U.S. oil giants ExxonMobil and Chevron are not far behind. And of course, there's some pipeline politics at play here as well. The federal government's resisting seeing the larger deals being done here in the Kurdish region. In fact, the Prime Minister, Nouri al-Maliki, suggests if the super majors want to come up to the north, they have to risk being cut out of the giant fields of southern Iraq. Oil executives say this infighting between Iraq and Kurdistan, which is a semi-autonomous region, is holding back investment. Iraq planned to see a 4-fold increase to 12 million barrels a day by 2017. It downgraded that number to 10 million by 2020. But the International Energy Agency says it will be closer to 6 million.
It's really very much in its infancy.
Majid Jafar says uncertainty is leaving huge swaths of Iraq unexplored.
But there are over 300 structures in the western desert of Iraq which are not even drilled yet. So actually the exploration and development of the Iraqi oil and gas sector is in its infancy.
And why Iraq, 10 years after the fall of Saddam Hussein, will remain an energy man's priority for decades to come. The International Energy Agency says that the Kurdish region is already producing 675,000 barrels a day, and it's just warming up. But it's not all about energy. When we come back, from real estate to restaurateurs, those who are taking advantage of the boom time in energy to set up their own businesses. When Marketplace Middle East continues.